Hey, what's up? It's Griff, and this is Griff Reviews Books. I hope everyone's having a good day today. And today we are going to review The Storm of Steel by Ernst Junger, which is a World War One memoir. Very cool stuff. But before we jump into that, and I have a great review for you. We also read poetry here at Griff Reviews Books, and it's March and coming up on the 20th anniversary of the Battle of Al-Nasiriyah in Iraq, and I wrote a poem about that. So this is my poem about the Battle of Nasiriyah on March 23rd, 2003. It's titled Bloody Bridges into Babylon. Nasiriyah Ambush Alley, 23 March 2003. We watched what seemed like an entire army drive through the night. Little did we know something went wrong. Pogues got lost, drove through this first city. We were supposed to be doing all the fighting in Ambush Alley. Was this really happening? We were all briefed on Ambush Alley, a desert choke point in an ancient city. Two vital bridges that needed crossing. We could see Iraqis all fleeing. Women dressed head to toe in all black, leaving. Then we crossed the first bridge, men in all white, charging into Ambush Alley. No weapons in hand, but still combatants at this catastrophe? Maybe. Private First Class Mincy starts shooting. We could see what was left of a firefight on this bridge into the city. After that, Mincy was going to start shooting at anything. It actually looked like we were winning. We hadn't yet seen what was going on ahead of us in Ambush Alley. We were in high-back Humvees, but we were still going to fight in this ancient city. Fighting was necessary, but not initially. We are moving north. After all, we are with the battalion landing team. Most of the battalion in thinly armored floating AAVs or amphibious assault vehicles, heavy mortars, ready and willing to get to the fighting. We finally set up inside this firefighting city. They have casualties. I need 10 Marines. I jumped to my feet. This was my action in Ambush Alley, running and clearing an LZ for casualties, ducking and dodging bullets while setting up mortar aiming stakes. I jumped in a sewage trench covered in shit. Men on rooftops were firing at me. I was one of Sergeant Hunt's 10 Marines. I was there fighting in Ambush Alley, direct firing mortars from a garbage dump, shooting M16 from the back of Humvees. This wasn't the plan to take Ambush Alley. We need tanks and less ROEs. We finally set up. We see the enemy. Why is he surrendering? They fought others in the battalion landing team. What the fuck, fight me? Kidnapping women from the army? Get up, Haji. Damn, that Republican Guard uniform is ugly. I'm here to kill Saddam's army. We take this. First of many surrendering Iraqis. We see what you did to the army. We aren't happy. We're still waiting on tanks, seeing what was left of Charlie Company. We evacuate some of Charlie Company. Where is Schreider? Where's my buddy? He didn't make it out on time is what one told me. Downtrodden, I get ready to push on, anticipating more fighting. Then Schreider sees me. Griff, you came here in a Humvee? Little did I know what we lost. We lost too many in Charlie Company. Friendly fire, if there is such a fucking thing. We finally discover and see firsthand the cost, what it took to conquer Ambush Alley, welcoming us to this fertile crescent and this bloody valley. For many warriors, it was just the beginning. For chosen few, it was their glory. And that's my poem, Bloody Bridges Over Babylon, from my book, Burned in Babylon. And that is a poem I wrote about the Battle of Nasiriyah on March 23rd, 2003, where I was with 1-2. What's up? Can't wait to see you guys. And yeah. So that's in my book, Burned in Babylon. Go check it out. It's about my time in Iraq and coming home and all of that. But I do have a good review for y'all today. Storm of Steel, the memoir of World War I German soldier Ernst Junger. I have some notes here too. So really good book. Quick background on Unger. Born in 1895 and then died not until 1998. He was German through and through. When he was a youth, he was kind of maybe what we would call a troubled youth. He joined the French Foreign Legion, was sent to North Africa, but then deserted to Morocco. And with some help from his father and the German government, the French Foreign Legion surrendered him back to his father and the German government, where he went to go continue studying and being a scholar, not a very good scholar, at the school in Hanover, Germany. World War I breaks out in 1914, and he enlists for a one-year term, and also becomes convinced to attend officer candidate school by his father. And that is where Storm of Steel really picks up. It's a memoir of World War I, although Younger has many memoirs and has written many things down. He was a German, and about his German later years, there was some other wars that happened later on in Germany. Unger opposed the Nazi Party in Germany, even though he was a fierce critic of the Weimar Republic, and he also was a German nationalist. But his status as a World War I war hero, which we'll get to in Storm of Steel, kind of elevated him to a point where the Nazis just kind of left him alone, and so he was outspoken. But he was a member of the German army. He was a captain in World War II. He was a Nazi, de facto Nazi, if you will. Go watch Schindler's List. You'll get the gist there. And then in this journal, Storm of Steel, his journal entries are real and authentic and raw. Not only do they tell the evolution of an individual man who goes from a young man to a wounded, hardened, very battle-hardened war hero and officer, but also it tells the story of the German army. And if you can see the forest through the trees, you can see how the German army is losing after the Battle of Somme and during the Second Battle of Somme through his writings, even though Unger doesn't explicitly say that. And so that's what makes this memoir really good, is he's a true believer in his cause, a true believer in his homeland. And so it's interesting to say the very least with that stuff. He was wounded 6 times, highly decorated. The first editions of his memoir, Storm of Steel, highly, redacted. So a lot of the personal stuff that we're going to get to here didn't really come out in that first edition because maybe it was propaganda by a German war machine. So that goes on without saying. So let's jump into the book here. On page 24, we have what begins Ernst War. I'm going to read you this quote and just kind of shows you how the early beginnings after. So Unger joins his unit, a famous unit, the 73rd Flusers, or some kind of infantry German unit that's elite and famous in Germany. And he joins them after they've stormed northern France, essentially. So he joins them after the trenches are dug and whatnot. But this is from his book. This is an excerpt here. They pass a great deal more quickly than those the night. One observes the well-known enemy positions through field. One observes the well-known enemy positions through field glass or periscope, and often gets a shot at a head target with the help of the latter. But caution is necessary, for English too have sharp eyes and good glasses. And so he begins kind of the book in almost like war as a sport. And it's sporting to be shooting at these good English marksmen and shooting just at their helmets. He talks about the importance of the steel helmets there, and get a little bit more into it. And he attends officer cadet school in the middle of his war experience and becomes an officer and fights in the Battle of the Somme. And so we're going to get to the Battle of the Somme here in a minute. Some quick stuff about the Battle of the Somme in World War I. Or the Battle of Verdun as well. Let's not split hairs here, folks. It's 1st of July, 1916 through about 18 November, 1916. Germany has about 1 million troops in the Somme region of France, which is a river valley in France. Very lush, lots of agricultural kind of, France vines, shit like that, right? I've never been there. I don't know what it looks like. You go. You tell me. But about 1 million Germans invade or storm France, and then about 2.5 million British and French repel them at the Battle of Somme. There's about 1.1 million casualties. Roughly 2/3 of those are German. And so trench warfare sucks. It's all in here as well. So the very first couple chapters is just about how hard trench warfare is, and it's brutal to read. And I'll have to be honest, I had to set this book down sometimes because it got so raw and real. It reminded me of some of my own war experiences. Being mortared is one, artillery shells, trench mortars, stuff like that. But you know, it's for the most part a lot different from the desert, the Battle of the Somme. A whole lot different. Trench warfare stuff's real bad, y'all. Just take my word for that. And we'll get to page 84. Here where I have another quote where I want to share with everybody. And yeah, so this is the quote talking about some of his actions in the Battle of the Somme. There I sat down on the edge of a steep bank on my cloak and lighting a pipe cautiously as possible. I gave rein to my thoughts. In the midst of the most beautiful castle in the air, I was suddenly alarmed by a peculiar rustling in the wood and the meadow. In the face of the enemy's senses are always on the lookout, and it is remarkable that in such moments quite ordinary sounds can give one the instant conviction something is up. At the same instant, the nearest post came up to me. Sir, there are 70 Englishmen advancing to the edge of the wood. So this is after he returns after officer cadet school, and he's being warned that an advance of Englishmen is coming upon him. Let's go to page 110 where there's some more trench tactics that Unger gets to that I can share with you. And so in this part, he's kind of listing off his equipment here. So if you can see it, I've highlighted some of the equipment. At 20 minutes to 5, we got the men together and led them to the jumping off places in the front line. I was in full array, 2 sandbags, 4 stick bombs, a Mauser pistol, compass, whistle, spring hooks for pulling out pins, a dagger, wire cutters, flat fast full of cherry brandy. We had taken off the shoulder straps of Gibraltar badges so that the enemy should have no information as to our unit. We wore a white band around each arm so we would know each other. So he's talking about the assault teams getting ready to assault trenches here in the Battle of the Somme. And then also, Unger is highly awarded. This action here, he actually takes 200 prisoners with about 20 men. And he's awarded a Knight's Cross of the House of Hohenzollern when he's on Christmas leave. And so that was interesting to say the least. Lots of talk about gas attacks during World War I in here, which are real and graphic to say the very least. And then he also talks about, so this version is not the highly edited version. This version was published in 1920. No, this was the later version published by the Englishman, let's see, Creighton translation. And there is notes from the author in the back here, who was also a World War I veteran, Basil Creighton, who's an English literature publisher and writer, wrote some of his own stuff about World War I as well. And so he laminates about the destruction of France. Unger is a German nationalist, but he still has romantic views about the French Somme region, especially. And that also comes out later on in his life when he's criticized for being essentially too German by Marxist Germans and stuff like that, politics. None of that is in here. This is a real, raw, gritty look at trench warfare during World War I. I highly recommend you pick it up and read it. There's some really good things in here. The one quote that I want to leave you with that just took me back from this entire war memoir of Ernst Jünger is "Thank God we only die once," and that's going to be the title of this video. But that is from Unger talking about the German Spring Offensive, or essentially the last offensive of World War I for Germany. And also on page 168, there's a quote here that I really want to read because it is interesting about how. So this translation, obviously, it's not in German. I didn't read it in German. I can't read German. This translation has more of the personal aspects of Ernst and his people. He names names, and his writing style comes off as emotionless or almost sociopathic to a certain extent. But he does have emotions. I'm going to dive into some of those emotions right here, right now, because we do see them come out in some of his writing. This is from page 168, and this is, I'm just going to quote straight from the book here. I found vast quantities of literature thrown down from aeroplanes. It was designed to hasten the moral derotion of the army. Among it was even Schiller's poem of Britannia the Free. It seemed to me very clever of the English to bombard us with poetry, and also very flattering to us. A war in which one fought with verses would indeed be a treat. And so he's kind of mocking, but also saying, yeah, psychological warfare, dropping pamphlets worked. It softened up our morale a bit, and that's on page 168. And so Storm of Steel, incredibly raw, authentic, real Storm of Steel. Pick it up, Ernst Junger. Like I said, this is the original 1929 translation from Crichton, and so it has less of the war propaganda in it and just more authenticity from Unger. And with that, and with his words about poetry and how it would be a treat indeed to fight war with words, I'm going to share with you my favorite poem. This is my favorite poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade, and it's by Alfred Lord Tennyson, a British writer. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the light brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the light brigade, was there a man dismayed? Not though the soldier knew someone had blundered. There's not to make reply, there's no reason why, there's but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, boldly they rode and well, into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell, rode the 600. Flashed all their sabers bare, flashed as they turned in air, sabering the gunners there, charging an army while all the world wondered. Plunged in battery smoke, right through the line they broke, Cossack and Russian reeled from the saber stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they rode back, but not the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon behind them, volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, while horse and hero fell. They that fought so well came through the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell. All that was left of them, left of 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made. All the world wondered. Honor the charge they made. Honored the light brigade. Noble 600. And yeah, that's my poem that I just read to you on my YouTube channel, Griff Reviews Books. That's not my poem. I didn't write that. That's my favorite poem. Charge of the Light Brigade. Alfred Lord Tennyson wrote that. I just finished this. Go read it. Pick it up yourself. Lots of cool stuff in here about German World War I, trench warfare, Battle of Somme. Intense stuff. My next book for Griff Reviews Books. So this is the March book. I'm going to do White Trash by Nancy Eisenberg. Never read this, never heard of it. Picked it up off of the Amazon, so definitely stay tuned. Please comment, like, share. If you see any books on here you want me to review, any poetry you want me to review or anything like that, send me a comment, send me something. And besides that, everybody love everybody. Have an amazing day. Bye.